So, is it audible? Good afternoon once again. Is it your first class? Not first. In this format, history first. You are here for history. Are you sure? Okay. But how can it be first class and also the last class at the same time? Because I am leaving in the evening. Maybe they have planned it for later some. Because of the expected lockdown. So if this is related to history, of course we have to talk about history alone. Otherwise, I was in a mood to have some fun, to have some general conversation with you. To know something about you. To tell something, not everything about me. Beginning with my name, Wasim Siraj Khan. Wasim is okay. W-A-S-E-E-M. So, how many of you are familiar with this discipline called history? Let us talk about history. And while talking about history, I will create a space for general things also. Since you are already well prepared for history class, then it's okay. Let us begin with what is history. A study of the past. What is past then? What is past? How to identify, how to define past? A fragment of time or a stage of development? Which one is more appropriate? A stage of development? Time has changed. What does it mean? System has changed. Things are changed. If the system is not changed, things are not changed, we don't have the impression of changing times. And that's why when the British rulers came to India, they considered India to be a land of timelessness. Unchangeable Indian village communities. Clear? And that led them to conclude that India is a country without history and Indians are people without any historical sense. Because historical sense can prevail only when we have changes, and India has not changed for centuries. So, what is past then? The issue is again the same. What is past? We will come to this issue. Let me first tell you a few things that whatever time is available to us, we can talk about only few dimensions. Rest of the things later on. First thing that we should pay attention to is syllabus. Second, question papers. Third, these are the issues I'm going to talk about them. Let me write it fully to avoid confusion. A standard textbooks, not guides, not popular guides. A standard textbooks, not popular guides. Then we can talk about the approaches that we have to follow. While reading those textbooks, while attending these classes. Clear? Then here we have certain things. When we will talk about the approaches, we can talk about those things. And among those things, you will also find nature of the subject. understanding the nature of the subject. That is very important. Only then you can realize the significance of the details that we generally notice in textbooks and elsewhere. Is this position clear to all of you? Are you familiar with the syllabus? What we call PT and what we call mains. I don't know whether this expression is correct or incorrect, but this is very popular. Mains, M-A-I-N-S, mains, PT and mains. Are you familiar with the syllabus? How many times you have read the syllabus? Anyone who has read the syllabus more than 10 times? 100 times? 1000 times? That is required, needed. Don't go through the syllabus simply to know what is written as a topic. Use the syllabus as a device that will establish interrelations, interconnections. You must be knowing that UPSC is asking interdisciplinary questions, multidisciplinary questions. So stay in contact with the syllabus on a regular basis. And not only to know the names of the topics, but to understand the topics and to establish interrelationship between different parts of the syllabus. If you do this, your whole knowledge would be organized. And this is not only about history, this is about all. So syllabus regularly consulted, not with a narrow-minded approach to find out which topic, but to understand the nature of the topic and to establish interrelationship between different parts of the syllabus. Because all these disciplines we study as part of our preparation, they deal with different aspects of our life, and different aspects of our life cannot be separated or segregated. So gone are the days when things were segregated and separated for you when you were at +2 level. Now this is time for integration. This is time for a synthesis. Clear? That is the general approach. Now what is the syllabus of history for PT and for mains? Before we talk about this syllabus, let me tell you one thing, that there is a very popular expression in the market, art and culture. You must have heard of. Art and culture. Art and culture. Have you ever heard of? Art and culture classes. What should we do for art and culture? Let me tell you, here when we are in the preparation, we should not be guided by rumors and the market. We have the syllabus. Go through the syllabus. You will find nothing as art and culture in your syllabus. This is a market fabrication. India is a land of rumors. So you decide you have to be part of the rumors or you have to be somewhat different. You just stay simple, you will be different. Because now being simple has become more difficult than being difficult. Ordinary is today extraordinary. Clear? So there is no subject that can be called art and culture. How? Let me tell you. In PT we have Indian history. PT and mains preparation cannot be segregated, cannot be separated, because subjects have basic integrity. PT is not a test. PT is not an exam. Let me tell you very frankly. PT is just a time-saving device, effort-saving device. Because in mains examination, we have so many papers, we have subjective answer writing, and everyone desirous of writing those answers, if allowed, how to process those answers. Don't you think it would be very costly affair? Rubbish things also. The people who are not well prepared, they will go and they will write nonsense things. Who will bear the cost? Who will spare the time for their evaluation? So PT is just a test whether you have been sincere in your studies or not. If you have been sincere, you will qualify. The problem is that when we start preparing for PT separately, because we are smarter, we are guided by the market, ki first let us qualify PT. So those people who try to qualify PT, they qualify PT. They keep on qualifying PT every year. And do you think it is a happy state of thing, qualifying PT every year? Don't prepare for PT. Those people who prepare for mains, they qualify mains. This is thumb rule. Qualifying mains means PT already qualified. And those people who prepare for civil services, in general, they qualify. That is, those who prepare for IAS, they qualify, they become IAS. And those who have larger objectives like self-realization, self-actualization, or happiness, they get the same. So those who prepare for PT, let me tell you, they qualify, even if they qualify. Because the way they are asking questions, if you prepare for PT alone, the way in the popular manner that just facts and details, you will never qualify. Because UPSC has changed the nature of the question. It is not only testing the knowledge of details, but also understanding. So don't be under unnecessary psychological burden that we have to first qualify PT. PT is not any exam. It is just a test of your sincerity. If you have been sincere in your preparation, you are going to qualify PT. And if you think that by devoting your time to PT preparation, you are showing sincerity, you are mistaken. Most of the time people say, no, I worked hard, I was very sincere, but I could not qualify PT. So it was simply because you prepared for PT. You prepare the subject in such a manner as to use it in different context. Clear? So move beyond that limitation, cognitive limitation, popular pressure, conformity pressure, if you want to do something different. Otherwise, this is market and there are many approaches which are there in the market. So here we have Indian history, not well defined. But we generally talk about ancient, medieval, and modern phases of history. What is ancient? What is medieval? What is modern? Can we have a separate time brackets for all these? Strict dividing lines? Can we have this? Can we say that there is a basic integrity in history which demolishes the barriers of what is ancient, what is medieval, and what is modern? Or this periodization of history is just a convenient device for understanding? What is ancient? Can we define ancient? Try to define. We are living in an age that is increasingly being termed as postmodern age. And in postmodern age, people don't accept definitions given by others. Because when we define things, we try to impose our understanding upon others. So that is an insult to intellectual liberties of others. So don't try to define. Try to perceive on the basis of characteristics or features. Now, from this perspective, let me know what can be the features or what can be taken as the features of ancient. Name anything that you think to be ancient, related to any aspect of life. Culture. It means ancient mein people were cultured, today they are not. Corona. In Vedas, yes. Vedas ancient. Stone Age. Don't we read Vedas today? Don't we use stone tools even today? The Vedas are ancient, stone tools are ancient. What is modern then? They should not have been present in our time. Can we see ancient as part of medieval, both ancient and medieval as part of modern? We have just seen continuity, historical continuity. Let me give you some idea of what is ancient. There was a time when history, and even today, at popular level, history is mainly identified with politics and the things political. Kings, queens, battles, etc., etc. So let us begin with this only. Suppose I am talking about kings, queens, princes, royal courts, courtiers, ministers, battles, conquests, annexations, subjects, feudal lords. What kind of impressions you are likely to have on your mind? Whether I am talking about medieval or modern or ancient? It can be ancient. It can also be medieval, but certainly not modern. But suppose I am talking about nation states, nationalism, nation states. Modern. I am talking about citizenship. Citizens, not subjects. I am talking about fundamental rights. Representation, responsibility, electoral reforms, extension of franchise, fundamental rights. Modern. Not postmodern. Modern. These things are very old. They are not new. Even in the American Revolution, in the French Revolution, we have the same slogans, which we find as part of the modern Indian Constitution: equality, liberty, fraternity. We are new. These things are not new. They have been there in existence for the last at least 500 years. So not postmodern. In postmodern, these things are getting diluted because of certain factors. This is not appropriate time to talk about those factors. Now understand the difference, that we can perceive the difference. Now suppose if I am talking about economic life and I talk about agriculture. Of course today we are talking about agriculture. Agriculture remains important even today. But if I talk about subsistence farming, crafts activities, artisanal activities, domestic mode of production. Getting this idea? I am talking about ancient or medieval. Feudal mode of production, domestic mode of production. But if I talk about capitalism, industrial revolution, industrialization, laws of demand and supply, Adam Smith, David Ricardo, neo-capitalism. It means in political field, modernity is generally identified with democracy. In economic field, identified with capitalism. And all these things are interrelated. And why only capitalism? Why not critique of capitalism? That is socialism. That is also modern. Can you identify something modern in society also? What is modern? And by the way, what was ancient and what was medieval? Only in that light you can appreciate the changes which have taken place in the modern. I have done it in two areas, political and economic. I have not given you the exhaustive points, but indicative. Likewise, you can also find some points in the society and can attempt a contrast between ancient, medieval and on the one hand and modern on the other? You tell me. How modern was the Indian national movement? Now expect these kind of questions. Gone are the days when history means bombardment of facts and details, dates and details. We have to proceed in an analytical manner. Otherwise, the same discipline we prepare also for banking, SSC, one-day competitions. So there must be some difference between UPSC and those competitions, isn't it? So here at this level, history is not only about dates and details. You are graduates now, and graduates who think themselves to be qualified enough to manage the administration of the nation. So something extra is expected on your part. So apply your mind and give me some points. Okay, let me help you here also. Suppose I start talking about birth-based distinctions. How many of you are going to consider me as modern or as a modern citizen? I am talking about birth-based distinctions. I am justifying privileges based on birth, social or economic. How many of you are going to consider me as modern? None? But if I talk about equality, then modern. It means the idea of social equality is something which has become more popular or more legitimate. We can't say that we don't have such notions in the ancient and medieval times, but they have become more popular, more legitimate when? In the modern time. Clear? What else? What about the status of women? More liberated, emancipated. What about culture, religion, literature, philosophy? Do you find anything modern in religion? Nothing. It means the reformers of the 19th century, like Raja Ram Mohan Roy, you may have heard of, Ishwarchand Vidyasagar, and others, who are accepted as social and religious reformers, were not modern because they were talking about religion. Or religions are old, but don't you think that in modern age we have new approaches, modern approaches towards the religion? God-centric world to man-centric world. And religion as a device to serve the humanity and humanism. Swami Vivekananda saying the same thing. Gandhi saying the same thing. Raja Ram Mohan Roy was trying to reform Hindu society. Did he talk about moksha? Hell, heaven, freedom from the cycles of birth and death? Nothing. Religion was to be reformed, but not for the religious purpose, but for a secular purpose. Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, you may have heard of, man associated with Aligarh movement. He was reforming the Muslim society. Did he talk about hell, heaven, and all those extra worldly goals which are presented as part of the Islamic faith? In fact, he criticized them. He did not accept the notion of hell and heaven. So religions to be reformed, not for religious purposes, but for secular purposes. That simply means when the same religions came to be perceived with modern perspectives like humanism, like nationalism, like rationalism, that is rational approaches towards religion, like liberalism. We have modern socio-religious reform movements, and they are new, despite they talking about the old religions, because we have now new understanding of man, new understanding of God, new understanding of the relationship between the two, and new understanding of the goals of religious life. Got this idea? Likewise, can you identify something modern in literature? Painting, dance, drama. Everywhere we have some elements which can be identified as modern, and that's why we accept ancient, medieval and modern not as distinct time brackets, but as set of cultural traits. And we can find them in an overlapping manner. So history is more complex than what we popularly think. And transition towards modernity is also not uniform. Since time is very short, so I will give you just few examples. And I will not unnecessarily expand the scope of this discussion. But don't you think that when we talk about Indian political life in the modern time, our polity is as modern as any other political system which claims to be modern in the whole world? I'm talking about political modernity. Do you think our political system is modern? If modernity is about democracy, do you think our political system is based on democracy? We call ourselves the largest democracy. If modernity is about fundamental rights, do you think we have fundamental rights in our constitution? Almost all the major, or almost all we can say, the ideas and institutions associated with political modernity can be seen in the Indian constitution. If not in the practice, in theory at least. So we can say our political system is modern, very modern. Can we say the same thing about our society also? Can we say our society is as modern as our polity? What about economy? What about cultural norms and values? So when it comes to job, technology, education, we are very modern. We can be people like Americans and all. But when it comes to marriage, we shift to the ancient gear. We are very complex, full of contradictions. Likewise, society is also full of contradictions. History is also full of contradictions. But do you have some taste of what can be called modern, medieval and ancient? Forget about thinking about them in terms of distinct time brackets. Try to conceptualize them as a set of cultural traits. These cultural traits, of course, developed at certain stages, but they are found in overlapping, establishing the inner integrity or unity of the history discipline. That at one level, we cannot differentiate ancient, medieval, and modern. That is part of your PT syllabus. Do you find art and culture here? Now, what is your syllabus here for your mains examination? Here they are not using the term history, they are using the term Indian culture. From, this is important, from ancient to modern. They should have simply written Indian culture, but they have written from ancient to modern. Medieval is implied, ancient to modern. Such as they have discussed some aspects as part of explanation, like literature, architecture, and art forms. Where is the art and culture? This is Indian culture, from ancient to modern. Literature, one aspect of culture. Architecture, one aspect of culture. Art forms, aspects of a culture. But when we use expressions like this, art and culture, it leads to disorientation. Art and culture, because then we think that different art forms are needed for us. And we tend to segregate or separate what is called culture and what is called a history. There is no difference between the two, because history studies nothing but evolution of cultures and a civilization. Both the words can be used now. The way we perceive history, we study history as interchangeably. History is man-made, culture is also man-made. God-made things are part of nature. Man-made things, either tangible or intangible, they are part of a culture. If you believe in God, then God-made. Otherwise, nature. Nature and culture. This debate is there in most of the disciplines. So if it can be art and culture, it can also be literature and culture. Why not? Go through the question papers. They have asked questions more number of times related to literature than related to art forms. Literature is more, what we can say, comprehensive than art forms. So why not literature and culture? Why not architecture and culture? Architecture includes even artistic developments like sculptural art and painting. It means architecture is a bigger category. Why art and culture? Because of some popular guides written in the market. There is no problem with them. We are not supposed to find problem with others. But the problem is with us that we are disoriented when we use the term art and a culture. And our attention is shifted from history to art forms and their details found in the popular guides. Syllabus is clear? Of course, this is important. UPSC has asked twice questions on art forms, painting and sculptural. But go through the popular guides. How many art forms are mentioned and how many details are there? All are unnecessary, unnecessarily consuming our energy, efforts and time. Clear? Now the second. Here your syllabus is, this is Indian culture. Then they have mentioned Indian history. Now see, the same expression is repeated. Indian history. From the middle of the 18th century to the present. So since history and culture both are same, here in your so-called art and culture, you will find questions on Krishnadev Rai. You will find questions on Chaitanya. You will find questions on Gupta coinage or post-Gupta coinage system. You will find questions on Palas. UPSC is not segregating between what is for PT and what is for mains. What we study here is also part of this expression that is called Indian culture from ancient to modern. But there is a special emphasis on this, for this, and this is mainly because of the fact of colonialism and nationalism, which is the essence of modern Indian history. Earlier, whenever we talked about modern Indian history, we paid main attention to national movement, but now UPSC has been very clear that not only the national movement, but also the colonialism. And what is the essence of modern Indian history? Transition of India towards modernity. That is appearance of or emergence of modern features, the features that we just talked about in different walks or in different areas of the life. Clear? Now in this process of transition, we find that colonialism played very important role. Political unity, administrative unity, economic integration, influx of modern ideas, introduction of modern institutions, representative, responsible, rule of law, and etc., etc. But then colonial modernity was limited, partial, distorted. And Indian national movement was not only for political liberation, it was also for transformation or transition of India towards modernity. From the very beginning, when we have the revolt of 1857, the rebels of the 1857 were not supported by the Bengali intelligentsia for obvious reasons, because they thought that these rebels are traditional people, backward-looking people, and they will take India to the medieval age, whereas they were aspiring for a modern India. And both are perceived as nationalists. As late as the foundation of the Indian National Congress, we have liberal leaders of the Indian National Congress who did not demand independence. Reason? They thought that the association with the most developed nation of the time will lead to modernization of India in political matters, in economic matters. So they demanded industrialization, they demanded representation, but they did not demand independence. It was only after their hopes being frustrated by repeated refusal and the government apathy that we have the rise of extremists who started demanding first Swaraj, and then we have the goal of Purna Swaraj. You may have heard of complete independence. And even in 1929, in Lahore session of the Indian National Congress, Jawaharlal Nehru declared the goal of Indian National Congress to be complete independence, and also explained this idea of complete independence. And he said that it does not only mean political independence. It also means a socio-economic reorganization of India on socialist lines. So it was never only about political independence, it was also about modern transformation. And in modern transformation, when nationalist leaders realized that whatever transformation is being made by colonialism is distorted, partial, or colonial, let us make our efforts, and they started with what is called nationalism. So Indian nationalism, political nationalism, cultural nationalism, economic nationalism. And then we got independence, success of Indian nationalism against colonialism. And then we have post-independence, that is also part of the syllabus, you must be knowing. And what happened? In the post-independence, we have legacies of both colonialism and nationalism. We have Indian Constitution and its functioning. So, Indian history from the middle of the 18th century to the present includes three important dimensions: colonialism, nationalism, and post-independence, that is Indian Constitution, its implementations, its problems, etc., etc., etc. Something that we study also as part of polity. But there is a single thread, and that is transition of India towards modernity. Clear? So this is the syllabus here, second important dimension. And then the third is related to world history, or history of the modern world. And here also the same expression. From the middle of, they have written important events, world history, this way, history of modern world, important events. Now who will decide? They have just indicated. We have to decide which events are important. They have just given us some samples. Important events, such as, they have mentioned, such as Industrial Revolution, a long-term process, is still continuing. Industrial Revolution. They have not mentioned American Revolution, but they have asked questions on American Revolution. It means there are topics which are implicit. So we can include even Renaissance, Enlightenment, American Revolution, before we talk about French Revolution and subsequent topics. So it is not only from the middle of important events, here the same expression, important events from the middle of the 18th century, such as Industrial Revolution. Then they have mentioned certain terms like capitalism, world wars. These are just samples. World wars, decolonization, etc., etc. That is not important. Just 6 or 7 topics are given. But go through the question papers. They have been asking questions on the topics which are not part of this expression. So subjective reorganization of the syllabus is required here. So how many topics for mains? 3. Indian culture, in the overall context of Indian history, from ancient to modern, from ancient to modern. This is nothing but Indian history from ancient to modern and not art and culture, because Indian history is now history of nothing but Indian culture and Indian civilization. Is this clear to all of you? This I will leave for you. Start reading question papers, both PT and mains, and that too with a comprehensive approach. Not just to know which topics are important, but to understand the pattern and the language of the questions, logic of the questions. So I will not talk much about them, but will simply indicate that in PT also understanding based questions are asked, statements are given, consider the following, something like this. And in mains, questions are increasingly becoming more and more interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary, whose answers cannot be found on some single pages of the books or single chapters, maybe the whole book or maybe other books also. Interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary. So if we look at the questions, the people with political science background can say that this question is from political science, and those having the background of economics can say, no, this question is from economics, and IR experts can say, no, this is IR. So if we don't have interdisciplinary approaches or multidisciplinary approaches, leave aside writing answers, we will not be in a position to understand even the questions. Clear? So stay connected to the question papers regularly till your selection. Stay connected with both, let me repeat, syllabus and question papers till your selection, and never think that now you have become expert in these matters. Now you know what is syllabus, now you know what kind of questions are asked. Stay connected. With every reading, your awareness level would be on the higher side, and your knowledge would be more useful, more powerful, more fit to be used for writing answers. So these two issues clear? Now this one. What textbooks you have to study? So for here I will not be suggesting you separate books for history and culture. Cannot be separated. Same books. So here for ancient, read R.S. Sharma. Author is important. He had written a book for +2 level published by NCERT. Later on, NCERT stopped the publication of this book, but the same book in a little modified form published by Oxford. This book. But don't be very particular about books. There are people who prefer Tamil Nadu board books. Read, don't wait for the ideal things to happen. So instead of waiting for finding a book which is but perfect, better try to make the material which is available with you perfect. Just don't waste your time. For medieval, Satish Chandra. This book has the same story. Earlier published by NCERT, but now published by a publication called Orient Black Swan. Orient Black Swan. For modern Indian history, read Bipin Chandra. This is the same story. First book that was by NCERT, but no longer by NCERT, but by OBS, Orient Black Swan. Here we read one more book, India's Struggle for Independence. Yes, the same book. Freedom struggle, I'm not suggesting you a spectrum. And if you read a spectrum, I think the older part of the spectrum, that was national movement. That is a bit tolerable. Later editions, they are of very poor quality. You must be knowing that a spectrum is now very thick book. So the original part written by Rajiv Ahir, that was very good. And now I have stopped recommending. In fact, I never did it. A guide is always a guide. It cannot match the textbooks. It can be very rich in terms of details, but then we are not Xerox machines. And it is not only about possession of knowledge, it is about processing the knowledge. That is more important. So read textbooks, because in those textbooks you will find more important things, perspectives which are used by examiners for asking questions. So read whatever you want, but don't ignore the basic textbooks related to NCERT +2 level. After that you are free. Keep on doing surgical strikes. Read whatever you want, but go back to the basics. This is NCERT. I'm not suggesting you 6th class, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. Forget about those romantic notions. We can't do this. One book in 6th, another in 7th, 8th, in 9th, 2, in 10th, 2, 11th, 2, 12th, 2. How many? 11 books. Let me assure you that you will not qualify even matriculation. Don't be over ambitious unnecessarily. We are not kids. We can understand things written for +2 level students. So don't go to 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. Just pay your energy, attention, and spend your energy here. These NCERT books. And they are the same NCERT books. Earlier NCERT, now known as Oxford, this. And for world history, Arjun Dev. Arjun Dev. And this book has the same story earlier. NCERT, no longer NCERT, OBS. After that, read vision notes, which are read even by the people who don't join vision. If you want to do something extra, repeated reading, repeated reading. Clear? So these are the books. Penguin. India's struggle for independence is Penguin publication. There is one more book by the same authors. Bipin Chandra is the lead author. What she was saying, Freedom Struggle, published by NBT, National Book Trust. I'm not talking about that book, but that book is also quite good, particularly for Indian national movement part. But this India's struggle for independence is a bit more analytical or comprehensive. Clear? Now, what to do with the new NCERTs? Is there anything in them that we can read? So yes, but not in history area. Just read new NCRTs for fine arts. 2 volumes are there, 2 books are there, volume 1, volume 2, plus 2 label again. So fine arts books of new NCRTs, not new history books by NCRT, but fine art books are very good. Good in terms of details. They are also conceptual understanding from the old NCRT books. We just read them, everything would automatically develop, combined with the class notes. These are the books. And if you are more ambitious and if you think that you can read more, then there is a book called The Wonder That Was India. That was India by A.L. Basham, B-A-S-H-A-M. We have one more book by the same title, and that is also called second volume of this book, but not by the same author, Rizvi. That deals with medieval. This, The Wonder That Was India, is about ancient. I will suggest you to go through just this book. Not the whole book, but cultural parts, religion, philosophy. Not in terms of details, but conceptual. So you can follow selective methods for some extraordinary questions. Clear? These are the books. Now, approaches. How to read? You generally keep on asking, how to read, how to read. How many different ways of reading do you know? You just let me know, then I will be telling you. Leave this and follow this. This is good. All these are unnecessary market problems. There is only way how to read. We have books in front of our eyes. We look at them. We read them. We have details which are observed by our mind, and then we apply reasoning, inductive and deductive. That at times we appreciate particular facts in the light of something general that we already know, and at times we try to draw some general conclusions from a set of specific facts. And so long as we are going to stay Homo sapiens sapiens, we are going to follow the same method. So don't be unnecessarily bothered. There is no secret knowledge in this market. There is no Babagiri. I hope you understand the meaning of this term, Babagiri. So first thing, be rational, not emotional, when we talk about this approach. Don't strive to read everything. Don't try to solve every question. Don't try to understand everything. Clear? Understanding is a lifelong process. Do you think that the understanding of history, economy, polity that you are developing today is the final understanding? So when this understanding will be final? When you will qualify this exam? Possibly, I think, even after few births, that will never be complete. Clear? So that is the first thing. Revenge. Familiarize. And that is also equally important. Don't try to finalize. Getting this point? No understanding is a final. Let your knowledge and knowledge structure remain dynamic. Don't try to finalize things. Familiarize. This is required for both your so-called PT and mains. This exam is based on recognition, not based on recall. And that's why 4 options are given. Can we imagine the degree of difficulty when the questions are of this nature? Fill in the blanks and no options are given. Fill in the blanks, no options given. Then we can say that the exam or test is based on recall. But when 4 options are given, that is based on recognition. So if the test is based on recognition, why do you try to memorize things? Don't memorize. That will be extra burden. We go to the extent of mugging up things like this. You ask me this, I will ask you this. I have remembered all these things. And at times we cover, okay, this side is okay, this side, this. Useless things. How many things you can remember in life? The things which are important are remembered. Try to understand their importance, try to understand their significance. If they are important, they will be automatically remembered. If they are not remembered, they were not important. Maintain some attitude. Every time, don't keep on cursing your memory. Avoid negative verbalization. Don't judge your memory on the page number 5 on the basis of what all you remember from the page number 3. This is not the human memory works. Suppose if we remember everything that we come across, how much time it will take for us to go mad? Forgetting is very natural. Don't consider it to be a limitation. This is a sign of healthy mind. If you don't forget, you will go mad. Clear? So don't project something as your limitation, which in fact is your strength. AI, artificial intelligence, you may be knowing. So familiarize. Don't try to finalize. Don't try to memorize. There are so many things, you will never be able to memorize even a single book the whole year. If you are spending your energy on this, you will develop negative self-concept, that this preparation is beyond your capacity. So don't try to memorize, don't try to finalize, just familiarize, but then on a regular basis. Keep on revising things. I will give you one practical example. Suppose we have 20 items, test items given. A common task is given to you. Let me tell you, UPSC has just given a common task. You can perform this task better than others only when you have personality traits better than others. UPSC is not interested in your knowledge. It has many other sources. Do you think that Government of India is going to use you after your selection as encyclopedia? You will be every time called to the office, okay sir, you have read a lot, tell us something like this. What is the utility of government officers? They are not used as source of knowledge. Then? Do you think that by acquiring knowledge you can be a civil servant? Sorry. There are many people more knowledgeable than all of you sitting together, which also includes me, pretending to be your teacher. And they are on the road, have not qualified. And there are people we know, maybe even at a lower level of knowledge than what you have at this time, qualifying this exam. What creates the difference? Processing is more important than possessing. Anyway, let us first discuss this example. We have 20 items, and the exam is after 20 days. How many days? 20 days. A task is given to two candidates, A and B. Now A started crying, time is very short, time is very short, time is very short. This is not about time being short. Most of the time we hear people, that time is very short, how can we do this? This is not about time, this is not about any absolute task that you have to perform. It's all about, this whole exam is about relative performance. You just have to be better than others, means you just have to utilize whatever available time, even 1 hour better than others. That should be the approach. If we have 1 hour, utilize it better than others. If we have 1 year, utilize it better than others. Stop crying over limitations of time. Time is uniform, given to all, equal resource. It is all about resource management. So maybe this person, the days are very short, only 20 days, 20 items. How will it be possible? Wasted 10 days in thinking like this. This person B thought otherwise. It's all about relative performance. See, this is the syllabus. All decisions are made here. 40 to 45%, 50% hardly performance decides who is going to top this exam. And in our mind, we have a task like this. So there is no absolute universe which we have to master to become a civil servant, to qualify this exam. It is just about being better than others in a particular year. Better utilization of your resources. Clear? So now you tell me, who is going to perform in a better manner, A or B? B. A has some limitations. Now imagine another situation. Both thought in the same manner. The time is sufficient, and both started with a positive mindset, not with a negative mindset. And then what happened? This A was more motivated. More motivated in the sense that more energetic. A believer in final understanding. I will finalize everything. I will memorize everything. He spent his 20 hours. That is 20 items, 20 days. And let us add one more factor, though this is ideal, that is 20 hours. Test is after 20 days. They have to spend 20 hours. A spent his 20 hours for these 20 items in 10 days. Every day, 2 hours. Hours gone. Now if extra hours are devoted to this task, it means some opportunity cost is being paid. Somewhere something is being left or damaged, isn't it? So 10 days, 20 hours. This person, B, decided differently. That 20 days, it's okay. And each day, just half an hour. He saved 10 hours. Isn't it? And then, you tell me whose performance is going to be better. B spent less time, less resources. Who is better administrator? Maximum output on minimum input. Whose performance is going to be better? The performance of the person who had seen these items 10 days before the exam, had finalized them 10 days before the exam, or the person who have just seen those 20 items before the exam. Whose performance will be better? B. Why? B has spent less time, has saved 10 hours, but he has stayed in contact on regular basis. Regularity is very important. Don't make your preparation an event. Let it remain a process. Don't try to finalize or familiarize. You are coming to vision classes. On the way, you can notice so many things. They would be automatically remembered by you. Don't try to stop. Don't try to take pauses. Okay, this is the shop. This number is this. After this, there are two buildings. One is of green color, another is of red color. Here we have a pan shop or cigarette shop. Have you ever remembered things like this in your day-to-day life? Then why to do the same while preparing? Don't do this. You just avoid the mistakes which are being committed. You will be extraordinary. Constant exposure. It means rapid reading. Increase the speed of reading. You are on highway, don't stop, even if things are not understood. Don't try to stop. Because if you are stopping at page number 5 to understand something, to finalize something, maybe by the time you reach page number 25, you will find something that will solve this problem. Give time some time. Give yourself some time. Don't be in a hurry. Those people who are in hurry, they spend more time and finally they don't qualify. Have patience. Rapid reading and regular revision. This is the second approach. Speedy reading. Don't stop. If something is not understood, it's okay. You are getting familiarity. In the next reading, the things would be more clear because you are going to return in a better capacity, with more awareness, with more knowledge, with more familiarity. And this time you will understand with more, what we can say, interconnectedness. But if you stop here on page number 5 and spend whole day, you have wasted your whole day. You don't have that much time. So here also maintain some attitude. I don't have time. I am going, but I will come back. I will come back to see you. So rapid reading and regular revision. Of course, if rapid reading is compromised, regular revision will also be compromised. If your first reading is not complete, I hope you understand what will happen. So read speedily. And for this, let me tell you, no notes, no underlining, in the first few readings. Otherwise, this becomes an independent task. And we start copying things before understanding their actual significance. If you read 2 or 3 times, many things would be automatically remembered. No need to make separate notes for them. And then other things would also be more digestible. And if you, at that stage you are making notes, those notes are going to be more meaningful. Otherwise, you must be knowing in the very first reading, people have pencils and they start underlining, all lines underlined. Then in the next reading, they have blue. In the next, they have black. And after exhausting all these things, they start encircling. And even after this, on the margins, tick marking. This is an act of art. Don't be an artist. Don't be a painter. Don't create tasks out of tasks. You have to read. Notes, we are going to ensure that you will have proper notes of everything in the classroom itself. Later on, after digesting those books, if you find anything substantial, add them. Clear? So, no notes. It is not that notes are not important. I hope you understand this. They are important. We should make notes, but not while, yes, first or second. From third onwards, you can start underlining, you can start making notes. Otherwise, you understand what will happen. all confusion, all mess. And you will simply be wasting your time in reproducing something that was already available with you in form of textbooks. Clear? Then fourth, more emphasis on processing the details, less on possessing the details. If a general conclusion is drawn, if you understand what is happening, leave the details. They are not going to affect your preparation, provided you understand what is happening. So suppose an event is described like this, that there are people who are moving hurriedly from one place to another, feeding some guests. There are cars, there are flowers, there are so many other rituals, etc., etc. If you know all these details, but you don't understand that a marriage ceremony is under a progress, your all this knowledge is useless. But the moment you know that, okay, what has happened? Marriage. Now you know what is marriage and what all happens as part of the marriage. That will serve the purpose. So don't try to master the details, try to reach the conclusion. And once that conclusion is reached, you think you have understood now, don't be bothered about confirmation of the details. They are immaterial. They are not going to affect your preparation. And now the last one. Last one is, there are many things we can keep on talking in between. But since I have to go back and I have to do some packing in the evening, I am leaving for Pune, where still no lockdown, so we have to proceed with classes there, offline mode. So I will be leaving you around 1:30. What is the time? I have been taking classes since morning, that is 8. And from 3 onwards, I will have to take till 7. So I'm very sorry that I'm not giving you the time that was expected, at least 2 to 2.5 hours. I will be giving you just 1.5, and that is not because of the institute, that is because of my engagements. I have to go back to the official residence here, have to do some packing, and you understand packing is a very difficult task. So the last one. By the way, how many questions do you think you have to attend to qualify? You have to correctly respond to qualify this exam. What are the trends in the market? Can you tell me? Those who qualify PT regularly or those who have qualified civil services, what is the level of their performance in PT? Because it is PT which most of the time we are preoccupied with. How many questions they correctly respond? You tell me. How many questions are there? 100. Out of 100, how many questions they correctly respond confidently, knowing that they are responding correctly? Otherwise, we have elimination method, we have guesswork, we have intelligent guesswork. There are so many things. But knowingly correct answers. That I know that this is the answer. As sure as what we can say, that if someone asks you that what is the name of your faculty? A, B, C, D, here fill in the blanks, as sure as this. How many questions? Because this is generally our standard that we set. How many questions? On the basis of my knowledge, experience, and if we can call it expertise, within inverted comma, And this is liberal, lavish. Let us assume an extraordinary situation, 40. Not more than this. After that, intelligent guesses, elimination, chance, etc., etc., etc. So if we definitely find 35 to 40 answers from some sources, don't you think we should be satisfied? And intelligent guesses are made on the basis of what? Understanding, on the basis of so many things we understand. This is the case. Now, out of this 100, 15 questions can be answered by anybody, even without preparing for civil services. If they are graduates and have some exposure to some competitive exams, I think 15 questions can be answered by every educated person. On the other hand, we have 15 questions which cannot be answered by anybody, irrespective of knowledge, experience, and so-called expertise. Your all faculties together cannot solve those 15 questions. So we are here, of course, not to share our knowledge only with you. Experience is more important. For knowledge, you have many sources. So there is no shame in accepting that knowledge has limitations. And it will always have limitations. One can be expert in one area. What about other areas? Clear? So there are 15 questions which will never be or which cannot be attempted by anybody. So you also leave them. Now, people belonging to different disciplines may have different questions in this category. But you are attempting around 85. Leaving the most difficult ones, you know nothing about 15. So my difficult areas may be in chemistry, your difficult areas may be in history. It depends. But roughly we can have an idea that we have to leave how many questions? 15. If you think or if you are in a position to reduce this number, then you are lucky and you are extraordinary. But this is sufficient. Now how many questions are left? How many? 70. Out of 70, how many are required? 25. See the task. Just 25. This is not extraordinary. This can be solved even by the people who are preparing for banking one-day competitions. So out of 100, how many? 25. They are going to decide what is going to happen in the examination hall. Though it may appear to be a little simplistic explanation, but still try to understand this. Then, now suppose out of 20, we are already in the bracket of 40. So 25 we are going to attempt, that is total 40. As sure as the name of Wasim Siraj Khan, this is my name. Now, how many are left here? 45. Out of 45, on the basis of intelligent guesses, on the basis of elimination method, on the basis of chance reading, how many questions you think you can correctly answer? Remember, your position is extraordinary. You are in the category of 40. Your preparation is not poor. If you know 40 questions, definitely your position here is going to be better than others. This is not a simple task that you have performed here. You are an extraordinary candidate, not an ordinary candidate. So in an extraordinary candidate, in case of an extraordinary candidate, how many questions are expected here to be correct on the basis of intelligent guesses, elimination method, or familiarity, or chance reading? 10 to 12. Even on the basis of the rule of probability, you can answer 10 to 12. You do one thing. You just fill A everywhere. Out of 45, 12 will be correct. So don't say 12. In any case, this is going to be not less than 20. Rest assured. If you are in that position here, it should be more than this. It will be more than this. Clear? Or at least it will be more than other candidates, provided you don't commit this blunder of attempting. Clear? So now you have 20. So how many correct? 60. Total income 120. Now you have paid some penalties also. You have attempted 45. Out of 45, how many are incorrect? 25. Now how much penalty we have to pay? 1/3. So the total number is 50. And 1/3 of 50 is 16 or 17. Something like this. 16. Is it correct calculation of penalty that you are supposed to pay? Or more than this? 1/3. So total marks 50. 1/3 of 50. 17. Now 120 minus 17. 103. Do you know the cut-off marks for the last year or last to last year? This was 92 even for the general candidate. This exam is very simple, so simple. The problem is that we don't realize its simplicity and we are guided by our mental notions, emotional notions, that this is IAS. So unless until the things are complicated, we are not preparing in the right direction. This is the problem. And that's why most of the time you will find fresh graduates qualifying this exam in an increasingly large number. Because they are uncorrupted by the market influences. They have yet not magnified the task or the problem in the light of their notion of what civil services are and how difficult the exam is. Stay innocent. Let's know about market. Let's know about UPSC. Let's know about the trends. Be honest. You have a task. Utilize the resources in manners better than others. And that is not avoiding work. That is doing work with managing your emotions well. If you don't create emotional obstacles, this exam is very easy. And at one level, this exam is less an intellectual affair, more an emotional affair. That is managing your emotions and the impulses. And then what will happen? 103. So see, we have so many margins. Even if it can be less than 20. Here also we can have less than 40. Even in that case, we are going to qualify this exam. So, what should be the target? And what should we expect out of the books I have suggested? If class notes, the suggested books, and the vision material together. Though things are never so mathematical, but still, let me present you. I don't have mathematics background, so I can commit errors here. So forgive that. Now let us arrange. Suppose we have 10 different areas in your PT. Economy, polity, this way, 10. And we have 10 questions from each area, and that's why we have 100. Let us take one area as example, elsewhere also we can follow the same. Now suppose 10 questions are asked. They are naturally not of the same degree of difficulty. They may vary from person to person. That some question may be more difficult for me, less difficult for you. That is also a probability. So now let us arrange them in an increasing order of difficulty. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. %. Clear? Let us be more ambitious. Will this serve the purpose? If everywhere we go to this extent, don't you think our preparation is good? We are going to qualify? Our problem is that while preparing, we don't start from this side, we start from this side. We start with the most difficult one. A difficult question in one particular year in the exam and the whole orientation is changed. We change our materials, we change our teachers, we change our institutes. Because why? Because in that institute, nothing about question number 10. You are stupid. Why are you trying for this? You have to be administrator. Try to invest your energy where you can have maximum output. Do you know what is called marginal utility and theory of diminishing return? Here, till here, you can easily reach on the basis of the materials available. But more than this labor is required for this 7 to 8. 8 to 9, more difficult. And 9 to 10, almost impossible. Impossible. It means no preparation for extraordinary. This is the last rule. But extraordinary command over ordinary. Extraordinary command over ordinary. Don't be bothered about extraordinary. They are not needed at all. Are you going to have extra marks for attempting difficult questions of this nature? 9, 10? So why to prepare for them? Even if you leave them, it's okay. So the sources which have been suggested to you, suggested on the basis of this understanding, if you read them well, class notes, NCERT books, and the material, let me tell you, we are being modest, you can reach up to 7, 8, 7. But let that be accidental, don't target this. Clear? You target only 5, 6, rather 4 to begin with. And if you reach 4, naturally you will reach 5 and 6 also. Clear? But never try to prepare for these topics. Most of the time we fail in PT because we prepare for these items and not for these items. They are ignored and they are never our own. Clear? So with this, wish you all the best. We shall meet sometime in the future.